Today on Unprofessional Movie Discussion, we'll be discussing Tomb Raider. This discussion will be spoiler free. Yeah. The look of this movie does look like that rebooted Tomb Raider game. That's not too bad actually. It's pretty good. You got a younger Lara Croft, and she's just starting out with her tomb raiding thing. Well, she hasn't really... Yeah, whatever. It just reminds me of the game.
Yeah, I definitely did notice that, how even in the trailers I noticed, oh, this looks like the most recent reboot, which is obvious where they've taken a lot of inspiration for the movie from, with regards to the action scenes, the fact that it's more of an origin story, she's not already a Tomb Raider, and seeing her grow as a character throughout the whole movie through flashbacks and seeing her go from where we first see her to by the end of the movie see so much character growth that it's just really good to see how well they did this movie.
Yeah. Speaking of that, there is at the end there is a sequel baiting thing. But we won't talk about that.
I don't want to talk about that.
So it pretty much starts off with her. I don't know how she's like 20 something or something.
I'd say in her early 20s, yeah.
Okay. So it starts off with Laura. She's in London and stuff, and she's a girl with money troubles. And when I heard that, I was like, well, hang on a minute, isn't she rich? But we find out why she hasn't got a lot of money. It's because that she hasn't signed this thing that declares her father dead so she can get the inheritance to be rich and have the mansion. So it's like, okay, alright, I get it, yep, at least she explained that. She's a really cocky character, She's stubborn, cocky, and she can be manipulative at times. So yeah.
Definitely has a lot of street smarts.
Yeah.
That's very clear.
I think that's pretty good. Some street smarts work out in this movie for her. Yeah. So, this movie, what is this movie? It's Tomb Raider, that's what it is. So this movie is pretty boobies. What? No. Yeah, so anyway, so she's doing this, no. So we're gonna skip some things. We're just gonna start where she got arrested because she hit a cop car with a bicycle. Anyway, she gets visited by this lady that works for her father's company and goes over to do the whole, talks to her about signing the forms and stuff. And eventually she does go there, and she goes to sign them, and the guy was like, oh, when you sign this and was your father's death, I was supposed to give this to you? And I'm thinking, whoa, hey, she didn't even sign the thing, you just handed it over, because she takes off with it. It's like, good one, man, you did your job really well, good one.
Yeah.
No one stopped her, so I guess it didn't matter.
Yeah, and she was solving this one puzzle that she clearly has solved before, and she was solving it so quick, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like she wasn't even trying.
Oh, yeah, well, it was in her flashbacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, in her flashbacks. The puzzle thing that the father left for her was the same kind of puzzle that she was playing with when she was a child. So that's where she has that ability to solve the puzzles, like whatever thing.
How like really complicated like mystery boxes and locks, because a lot of them require a lot of these weird, very specific turnings in order to completely unlock them.
Oh, you know what? It just reminds me. You know what she did? Okay, alright. So, she finds a video, and it's the father saying, if you find this, that means I've died. All I want you to do is burn everything, get rid of everything, and destroy everything. You know what Laura does? She pulls a Mighty McFly, and she goes and investigates her father's papers and finds out where the island is. It's like, like Back to the Future 3. Hey, Marty, once you've gone back to the future, just ride a DeLorean. Nah, I'm gonna come get you, Doc. Oh, you just endangered both of us.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So,
Instead of doing instead of honouring her father's wishes, but she's so desperate to find answers to find her father, she's like you can see here before, you can see it in her face, it's like, screw that, I want to find out what happened to you. I'll get rid of most of this after I found you.
Yeah.
Because clearly there's a lot of important stuff, not only to find this very specific tomb, but also something else which later is going to be extremely important.
Exactly. So she goes off to Japan.
Yes.
Japan. Yeah. She goes to Japan to find this boat thing, and she does, and finds the captain drunk.
Yeah.
How'd she get there? Well, she got her bag stolen, and she got her bag back. And for all that trouble, she got a knife pulled on her. And then she ran onto the boat, and then the drunk captain, got the shotgun and was shooting and stuff, and they ran off. So, she, as I said, she's pretty manipulative. So she pretty much said, seeing the poker game, whatever, left over from the other night or something, and he was like drinking his sorrows. So she pretty much like said, well, here's some money, boom, and he's like, okay, let's just go. So that happens, and then it's all calm and stuff, and then we see another flashback, and how her and her father would get along, and you see that her dad always left and stuff, and you can see, like, when she was a child, she was okay, but then when she grew into a teenager, that's when she sort of was, like, pretty angry about him leaving all the time for stuff or whatever. So.
And she was training with a bow and arrow, so she was already frustrated herself from not hitting the target, much less starting to get fed up with her father's shit.
Yeah, also, we should have mentioned this, but in the beginning she's was it boxing? Yeah, she was boxing. Yeah, she was boxing. So, what was it, UFC?
I'd say more boxing than UFC.
But she got him in the headlock. You don't.
I'd say I'll be more mixed martial arts, so that would be UFC style. Yeah.
So she's pretty much UFC fighting style, and she's okay. So she's a decent fighter. She knows how to use a bow and arrow. So at least it's explained how she can fight good, and why she can use a bow and arrow pretty well.
And how to use her slightly small stature.
Yeah, against like big dudes and stuff.
Yeah.
And she can dodge bullets. The action and the puzzles. Okay, so the puzzles are pretty, like, the first you have your basic. First you have like a somewhat basic puzzle that she would know how to do because she's done it on that little device thing. And then some of the puzzles do get a little bit more harder, but there's only, how many puzzles is there? There's only a few.
There's a few. Like, there's ones you have to figure out in order how to get coordinates, and as it turns out, it's all clock faces.
Yeah.
Faces to sort out the numbers, and once someone else figured that out, I was like, okay, that makes it pretty simple.
Oh yeah, the captain.
The captain figured it out.
It's like the clock faces. She goes, no, they're not.
And then she looks at it, then looks at the clock that's actually behind her, and is like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What else? Oh, then this wild storm that reminded me of the game. I was like, this happened in the game. This storm and her and the boat crashing and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was good. And then the storm was like, and the waves are big, and then there's rocks everywhere, and then you find the island and stuff.
Yeah.
And then she gets knocked out. And then she
Yeah.
wakes up in this guy's tent, and
Yeah.
it's like, okay, here's the bad guy.
Yeah.
And I think this bad guy, he's really, he's kind of losing it, kind of thing, you know, because he's been on the island for 7 years.
Yeah.
And he's sort of almost kind of like borderline, just, you know.
Like, it's either the isolation that's getting to him, or the fact it's taken so long to find this one thing that's...
Yeah.
Like, so many things have clearly gotten to him that...
He's not allowed to leave until he finds what he wants.
And also that very specific detail. Well, he can't leave the island until he's found what they're looking, until he's been found what he's been sent to find.
Yep. And...
so pressure, isolation, the amount of time being there, and the fact that he has authority over his head, all these things have gotten to him and made him more and more insane and more unstable, to the point where he doesn't care about anything or anyone except for his own goals.
Yeah. He, a few times he's pulled the gun on Lara.
Yeah.
You know, but doesn't pull the trigger.
Yeah.
And, it's like, and then you know what happens? Yeah, so he finds the map, so now he knows exactly where to go.
Yeah.
So Lara, you know, being as stubborn as she is, she should have just, you know. Yeah. So that happened, and, so she's put on, you know, the working force thing to, get into the tomb thing.
Yeah.
And, then she escapes, and somehow this guy finds her. I don't know how he found her. What happens is, she escapes, and she falls into the river, and then she, holds onto this rusted out plane, gets into the plane starts breaking out apart and falling, she parachutes down into the next forest down. She's there for 2 minutes going around. Next thing you know, boom, this guy just finds her somehow. That doesn't make sense. I don't get it.
The thing is, unless you know the island, how are you supposed to find her? That's
she parachuted, man.
I mean, you would have to know first where the river goes throughout the entire island, including where it goes after the waterfall, but then you have to look for so many things that are so hard to find, up in the trees and all that. Just to find her, even just to stumble upon her, should have taken days. It should have taken days to find her. And somehow it seemed like they found her in less than a day.
Exactly.
That makes absolutely no sense. You have to have been on that island and so focused and learned so much about the island that you know the whole island like the back of your hand.
And you know where parachutes will land.
Which technically is impossible. Unless you know there's plenty of open places where it can happen.
Yeah, even if he saw it if he was up on that cliff and he saw it land, he has to still climb down. She just landed, right? Yeah. She gets impaled by a twig or whatever, a stick, and she rips that out, and she's stumbling, and it is nightfall, so it's pretty much a couple hours later, and then she gets found, but then she's saved by a mysterious man. And
someone else who obviously has also been on the island for a while.
Yes. And we'll end it there.
Yes.
No spoilers. Ha 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 ha. We won't tell you about the ending and everything else, so too bad. So I'll give this Tomb Raider, I'm gonna have to give this 4 stars as well. This is good. It's a good start. It's different. It explains her abilities much better, and so now you know that she can fight, she knows how to use weapons, and you know how she can solve puzzles and how good she is at doing mostly all that stuff.
Yeah, I'll give it 4 as well, and it definitely does show who she is and how wise she is a lot better than the previous ones, and also I think it's a much better movie in general and all, and it really does mirror the reboot a lot, but it does it all in a good way. It's definitely a much better movie.